Imagine standing in the shadows of a cold, dimly lit workshop where the air hangs heavy with the sharp scent of chemicals and dust. A young boy, barely tall enough to reach the table comfortably, sits hour after hour, his small hands carefully wrapping labels onto bottles. The work never stops. Outside, life rushes on, but for him, time feels frozen in exhaustion and quiet shame. That boy had dreams bigger than the world around him. Dreams of stories, of adventure, of a life filled with meaning. And yet, here he was, trapped in circumstances that could have broken anyone. My friend, stay with me. Because this is not just the tale of hardship. This is the story of how one child's pain became fuel for a voice that would echo across centuries, touching hearts and opening eyes to the quiet struggles of ordinary people. This is the remarkable journey of Charles Dickens. Born in 1812 in the coastal town of Portsmouth, England, Charles entered a world that seemed full of promise. His father, John, worked as a clerk in the Navy Pay Office, handling papers and records with a cheerful spirit. His mother, Elizabeth, brought warmth and energy to their home. The family wasn't wealthy, but they had enough to feel secure. They moved between towns, London, then the greener fields near Chatham by the sea. Those early years in Chatham painted some of Charles's happiest memories. He roamed open fields, explored the ruins of an old castle, and let his imagination run wild under clean skies. Even as a little boy, Charles had a special spark. He devoured every book he could find in his father's modest collection. Tales of shipwrecks and survival on distant islands, magical adventures from distant lands, they transported him far beyond the walls of their modest home. When he read, he wasn't just a child flipping pages. He became the hero, the explorer, the one shaping his own destiny. His father noticed this passion and nurtured it, taking long walks with his son and pointing out everyday scenes, encouraging him to really see people, the way they moved, spoke, and carried their hidden stories. A frayed coat, a hopeful smile, a weary glance. Charles absorbed it all, storing these observations like treasures. Nearby stood a graceful house on a hill called Gad's Hill Place. Young Charles would gaze at it with wide-eyed wonder. His father once told him gently, "If you work hard, my boy, one day you might live in a place like that." Those words planted a quiet seed of hope that would stay with him through the darkest times. But life has a way of testing our dreams. Charles's father had a habit of spending beyond what the family could afford. Little by little, debts mounted until, in 1824, when Charles was just 12, the fragile world they knew collapsed. Unable to pay what he owed, John Dickens was sent to debtor's prison, a place where families sometimes stayed together behind bars. The rest of the family joined him there, but young Charles was sent to work instead. Picture it, a 12-year-old boy, full of stories and curiosity, now walking alone each day to a factory that produced shoe polish. Warren's blacking factory. He sat at a small station near a window, pasting labels onto bottles for 10 long hours a day, 6 days a week. The pay was meager, just enough to buy a simple meal. Rats scurried in the corners, dust filled the air, and the work was repetitive and lonely. The boy who once lost himself in grand adventures now felt invisible, ashamed, and forgotten. He wondered why his own parents had allowed this to happen. That question lingered like a shadow, shaping the way he saw the world. Those months in the factory were incredibly difficult. Yet even in that hardship, something powerful was stirring inside him. He observed everything. The other children working beside him, many even younger, with little hope for education or a brighter future. After his shifts, he wandered the streets of London, a city alive with contrasts. Elegant carriages rolled past children sleeping in doorways. Stately homes stood near muddy lanes filled with struggle. He passed bustling markets, thick fog that swallowed the streets, and places where poverty weighed heavily on daily life. He saw the faces of people society often overlooked, the tired, the forgotten, the resilient. London, with all its grit and humanity, was quietly becoming his greatest teacher, filling his heart and mind with stories waiting to be told. Eventually, a small inheritance helped his father clear the debts and leave prison. Charles was able to return to school. But he carried the weight of those factory days in silence. For most of his life, he kept that chapter hidden from friends, his wife, and even his own children. The shame ran deep. Only private writings discovered long after his passing revealed how profoundly those experiences had marked him. That wound, however, became the source of his greatest strength. As a young man, Charles took a job as a clerk in a law office, but the slow pace didn't suit his restless energy. He taught himself shorthand, a quick system of symbols, and became a skilled reporter covering parliamentary debates and events across the country. His writing stood out, vivid, energetic, and full of life. People began to notice. Then came a quiet turning point. In 1833, he wrote a short story and saw it published in a magazine. That night, he walked the streets of London with tears of pure joy in his eyes. His words had found their way into the world. More stories followed, each one capturing the humor, heart, and struggles of everyday people. In 1836, at just 24 years old, Charles published his first novel, The Pickwick Papers, released in monthly installments. Readers across England eagerly awaited each new chapter, much like today's audiences follow favorite series. Success arrived swiftly and brightly. That same year, he married Catherine Hogarth, and together they built a large family with 10 children. Responsibilities grew, but so did his determination. Over the following decades, Dickens poured his experiences into stories that would captivate generations. He wrote Oliver Twist, bringing to life a young orphan's plea for more in a world that often ignored the vulnerable. He created A Christmas Carol, the tale of a miserly man named Scrooge visited by spirits who helped him rediscover kindness and generosity. That story transformed how many people thought about the holiday, turning it into a time of warmth, giving, and caring for others. He crafted David Copperfield, a deeply personal favorite that echoed elements of his own journey from hardship to hope. Works like Great Expectations, A Tale of Two Cities, and many more followed, each filled with memorable characters who felt vividly real. What made his writing so powerful was his focus on ordinary lives. He shone a gentle but honest light on factory workers, struggling families, and children facing tough realities. Through humor, emotion, and unforgettable scenes, his stories helped readers feel the challenges of those often overlooked. In doing so, they inspired conversations and gradual changes in how society viewed factories, prisons, and support for the vulnerable. Dickens became more than a storyteller, he became a quiet catalyst for compassion and awareness. He didn't stop at writing. He loved performing, reading his tales aloud on stage with such energy and skill that audiences laughed and cried with him. He toured across England and even traveled to America, where crowds gathered enthusiastically to hear him. Always creating, always giving, editing magazines, organizing charitable efforts, and sharing his gifts generously. And remember that house on the hill from his boyhood? In 1856, Charles Dickens purchased Gad's Hill Place. The dream of that curious child had come full circle through years of dedication and resilience. His tireless work took a toll on his health. Friends and doctors urged him to slow down, but he continued pouring himself into his craft. In 1870, at the age of 58, he suffered a stroke and passed away the following day. The nation mourned deeply. Shops closed, newspapers overflowed with tributes, and ordinary people, the very ones he had written about, came to pay their respects. He received a simple funeral as he wished, yet was laid to rest in Westminster Abbey among England's most honoured figures. For days afterward, visitors left flowers at his grave, honouring the man who had given voice to their experiences. My friend, Charles Dickens started in a place of real struggle, a boy with calloused hands and a heavy heart. Yet he held on to his love of words like a quiet light in the darkness. Through observation, persistence, and resilience, he transformed his pain into stories that still move us today. His journey reminds us of the incredible power within each of us to keep going, even when the path is hard. And right now, as you listen and learn, you're doing the same, building something meaningful, word by word. Keep going. Your story is still unfolding. Thank you for sharing this time with me. What's a book or story that has inspired you? I'd love to hear in the comments. If you enjoy these journeys, please subscribe. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and believe in the strength inside you.